He landed at night, and he won't have been happy with the verdict on his summit with President Putin if he woke up in time to watch his favorite morning show, Fox and Friends.
You're standing next to Vladimir Putin, whose ultimate goal in life is to undermine our democracy. So it was that one moment that you had to stand up for your own country, to stand up for your intelligence community. And as we've said this morning, he did not do that.
Unprecedented criticism from the channel that loves him.
Nobody's perfect, especially in 10 intense days of summits, private meetings, and everything on his plate. But that moment is the one that's going to stand out unless he comes out and corrects it.
On the opposite channel, a former CIA chief was more brutal.
What Mr. Trump did yesterday was to betray the women and men of the FBI, the CIA, NSA, and others, and to betray the American public. And that's why I use the term that this is nothing short of treasonous, because it is a betrayal of the nation. He is giving aid and comfort to the enemy, and it needs to stop.
May I give this to you to look at, sir?
Back to Fox, where a rigorous interviewer tried to hand President Putin the indictments of 12 Russian intelligence officers charged with interfering in the U.S. elections.
Start answering your question with something a little bit different.
He never did answer the question. In the Senate, the Democrats were asking what exactly did the two presidents talk about in their private meeting, and why did Mr. Trump seem so keen to please Mr. Putin?
President Trump's actions yesterday lead many more Americans to suspect that something was amiss, that there may have been collusion. What else would explain President Trump's actions and protestations?
Even the congressional speaker from President Trump's own party criticized him, although without actually mentioning his name.
Vladimir Putin does not share our interests. Vladimir Putin does not share our values. We just conducted a year-long investigation into Russia's interference in our elections. They did interfere in our elections. It's really clear. There should be no doubt about that.
How strange it feels to hear the voice of Mr. Trump's predecessor speaking in South Africa today in memory of Nelson Mandela. A voice from another era, warning about not only Presidents Putin and Trump, but Erdogan in Turkey, Orban in Hungary, and maybe others to come.
I am not being alarmist, I am simply stating the facts. Look around. Strongman politics are ascendant, suddenly, whereby elections and some pretense of democracy are maintained, the form of it, but those in power seek to undermine every institution or norm that gives democracy meaning.
Improved relations with Russia. That's what President Trump said he wanted.
It's great to be with you.
But at what cost to his country? Maybe to democracy itself.
Lindsay Hilson reporting. So, what did Trump voters make of his controversial visit to Europe last week and his summit with Vladimir Putin yesterday? Fatima Manji is in Michigan, a state that swung away from the Democrats and helped deliver a Trump presidency in 2016. Fatima.
Well, John, in 2016, this state swung from blue to red. Partly that victory was handed to Donald Trump by voters who voted for Obama in 2012 but switched allegiance to Trump in 2016. So what people think in this state here really does matter. And while we've witnessed anger in the last 24 hours from Washington at that embrace of Vladimir Putin by Donald Trump, the view here looks slightly different. More of that in just a second. But just in the last few moments, Donald Trump has been forced to engage in a sort of damage control after he came under pressure. He's been clarifying his remarks that he made in that press conference yesterday, saying that he agrees with US intelligence, that he will aggressively repeal any interference in 2018, and that he meant to say that that he saw no reason why it wouldn't be Russia who was interfering in the elections. But as for his supporters here in Michigan, at least for some of them, such a clarification wasn't needed. Here's the view from the city of Walled Lake.
Michigan is important. The road to the White House runs through Michigan.
It was a disconnect. It was a huge disconnect with Washington, D.C. And Trump was something different. He wasn't a smooth-talking politician.
He was someone that got stuff done.
Let's talk about that press conference yesterday and seeing President Putin and President Trump together. President Trump's being called a traitor. I wonder how you feel about that.
Honestly, we laugh out loud when we hear it. We're like, what? What are we hearing? We're on the brink of war? No, President Trump
One press meeting.
Right.
One press conference, we're at war.
The public expects nothing less than from the swamp in D.C. and their cronies in the media. I mean, it's really, we expect nothing less.
But you've got Republicans criticizing President
Trump.
Trump.
Those are never Trumpers. And you know what? We love when Trump is Trump because it exposes them, and we love that. We love seeing it.
We can focus on what Trump says in a press conference, or we can focus on what he actually does.
Yes.
And he's put people back to work, record low unemployment for Hispanics, for African Americans, record high employment for the whole country. Look at what he does. It speaks to middle America. And the swamp may not like it, but
they don't like it.
And that's why they're screaming pretty loud.
How is the media not talking about that? How is the media not talking about everything that Scott just said? They scream impeachment. So screaming that he's a traitor, that's not very far off.
So do you think that Russia did interfere in the election?
No.
The United States meddles in elections.
What's sad is that President Obama chose to do nothing about it. He was the president when this happened, and they knew about it, and they chose to do nothing.
There was no
That's
collusion.
what the
No
Main
collusion,
Street.
but there's been meddling for years.
There's been meddling.
There's been meddling for years. It didn't change the outcome.
See, this is the thing. We're on the ground, so we're talking to voters all the time. That's all we do, is work on campaigns. People love this president. That's why President Trump won. They just can't handle that. They keep needing a reason, an excuse. How did this monstrosity happen? How did this abomination make it to the White House? The truth is the American people love him, and they still support
but
him.
not all the American people love him. I mean, half the country is divided, sure.
You're right, and they either love him or hate him. We talked about that before. There is no middle ground right now, which is a shame.
But they sure do like the record employment.
Exactly.
So you think that this press
Exactly.
conference... You think that this press conference with Putin isn't going to change people's opinions? If you love him, you love him. You hate him, you hate him. That's the way it
was a
stands.
1-hour press conference after a 2-hour private meeting. We have no idea what happened in the private meeting. It was a 1-hour press conference, and I'm supposed to change my opinion about a president that's doing all kinds of amazingly positive things because of a 1-hour press conference.
It's the swamp screaming. It's the swamp being Chicken Little, the sky's falling in, and the American people are getting tired of it.
I wonder how you feel about Russia generally. Do you think Russia is an ally for the U.S.?
Well, they're not our friend. They're not a friend. They're a political foe.
But if they're a political foe, then why is President Trump reaching out to them in this way?
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you become
They have
friends?
the largest nuclear arsenal after the United States.
Do you think that any of this will affect what people are saying to you when you're out campaigning?
For 2018 or 2020?
Both.
No.
Not for 18.
No.
It all
Not for
comes down
18.
to the economy and jobs.
Are they making more money? Is there more money in their paycheck?
Can they provide for their family and kids?
So to those who are calling President Trump a traitor, and to those who are critical of him, including Republicans, what's your message?
It was one meeting.
Yeah. I think they better get on the Trump train and start enjoying their life again.
You've been in the swamp too long. Get back to middle America and see
Either
what
that,
matters.
yeah, they ought to go get a job. They need to get unelected and go work in the real world.